G'day everyone, Prep Aussie here. I hope you're all well in whatever part of the world you're watching this video. Today is Monday the 14th of May 2018 and the time here is 13:30 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time. Well folks, thanks for coming back. Glad to be back. Obviously a lot's been going on. It's just the world is becoming more and more bizarre every day. To try and keep up with everything that's happening, and this is the sad part about all this. The sad fact is that I can't keep up, but then you've got news agencies, like mainstream media, who are all crap. They're not keeping up with it because they're not interested in any of it. So nobody's really getting the full picture, and I'm only one bloke. I can't do everything, you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to cherry pick the best bits of information, but there's so many bits of information each day that it's just mind-boggling. So the one thing I wanted to focus on today was, or a couple of things, it's becoming increasingly obvious, as I said a while ago. The reason for Obama's visit, the reason for Clapper's visit, the reason for John Kerry's visit, the reason for Hillary Clinton's visit is one thing and one thing only: protect their ass. And to actually come here to Australia to actually tell our politicians, not sure who they are yet, but there is Australian politicians involved and Australian governments involved in all this. You can bet your bottom dollar on that. The 150 billion that was given to the Iranians has now doubled in some sources. Obviously I can't confirm that, but if it is $150 billion, that's enough. But if it's double that and probably more, then that is an outrageous amount of money. Now, somewhere along the line, the Clinton Foundation got involved, like this bribes for money, bribes for power type of arrangement, jobs for the boys, etc., etc. So you wouldn't have to look too far past the Australian government and a couple of rangers probably that may or may not be involved in this, and part of the government at the moment that may be involved in this. Why would Hillary Clinton, why would Barack Obama, why would John Clapper, all of these people, by the way, who are on their way out, not staying, why would they all come to Australia? And why would Hillary Clinton come here last week, when it was announced that the Iranian deal was going to get expunged? Obviously, to back up what Barack Obama said, we all go down together. There's no rats getting off the ship. But what happens if you've got a tactical player who came along and went, okay, he puts his man in the CIA, and then he then turns around, finds out everything he needs to find out, and then turns it around so that his man then goes into the Secretary of State role. And that is obviously Pompeo. But remember, Malcolm Turnbull got summoned to Washington. Do you remember? In March, I think it was. And you can bet your bottom dollar that he was told, we know everything, etc., etc. You're now playing by our rules, so you can only surmise this stuff at the moment, but it's got a pretty big, powerful background to it if you really want to look into this stuff. And then you've got Malcolm Turnbull came out in the weekend and Julie Bishop both were saying, oh, the reindeer's really good. Oh, don't throw it away. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Interesting. And then Hillary Clinton lands her ass in Sydney. Guys, you've got to remember, you've got to use a bit of critical thinking here. And that apple is so big, you've got to remember the saying, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time. Trump is actually taking bites out of that elephant, and everything's not going to be exposed, as much as we'd want it to, everything's not going to be exposed last week. That's just not going to happen. It's just stupid to think that it would happen. Excuse me. They've got to dot the I's and cross the T's, folks. Remember that. Now, where does that leave Australia, though? Well, Turnbull came away from Washington building a US warship, etc., etc. In America, by the way. You can't make this shit up, can you? Obama left empty-handed because he would have been told. Remember, he came here after Turnbull went to America. So his only reason for coming on that trip would have been to find out what he got told and what he got told he was doing and who he grassed up. That's how serious this is, folks. We're living in treasonous times. And the other day when I said we have to back Trump because we've got no other option, because otherwise this shit just keeps going on and on and on. Our kids have to live through that same shit that we all lived through. You can't sing Bar Bar Black Sheep. You can't say that there is no more black sheep, there is no more this. Get lost. It stops. And somewhere along the line, someone has to stop it, as I said. And we have to back someone to do that. We can't do that. If it's Trump, then we've got to get behind Trump. And I haven't been sucked into that whole queue and, as I said, it's all big theatre. All one big great theatre show. For somebody. I don't know who, but look, I never got into it. How can I physically sit here in Australia and tell you that Q was great? Yeah, he might have dropped a few bombshells here and there, but, anybody can do that. It's critical thinking, folks. And as far as I remember, Alex Jones is the guy who woke most of us up. Yeah, he rants and raves and, but you can't take away the fact that he did wake us all up. So, for Q to turn around and say, oh, he's a wanker, and that may be the case. But, he is the one who's been waking everybody up for the last 20, 30 years. And then Q comes along for 5 minutes and everyone dives on Q. Everyone's a international intelligence agent. Come on. It was theatre, folks. It was theatre from the time it started, and it's going to keep on being theatre. Just watch what Trump's doing and watch what the Trump team is doing. Just Trump, and there's 2 other people in the Trump team that I look for information from as what they're doing. Not what they might be doing and, let's telegraph the world that we've got a Hiroshima bomb by dropping 10,000, come on. I'm not critical thinking enough to be able to sit there and read that shit day after day either. So, anyway, right. Here's some other things I wanted to mention today. Hang on a sec. This interview here with Greg Hunter with Dr. Dave Jander. If you haven't watched it yet, make sure you watch it because it is simply superb. It is a really good piece of information. Simply superb. One thing that I want to talk about today is North Korea. Now, does everyone realise what's going on here? North Korea and South Korea were divided because of the fact of a proxy war started by the communists, who were the Russians behind the Chinese, and they wanted to take over the whole of the Korean Peninsula. The Americans got involved first, and then the United Nations, grouping all the nations together, got involved. The death toll for the Korean War is quite simply staggering, folks. And it's quite simply staggering because of the fact that the Chinese lost so many people. And you don't realise this until you read it. And then you think, oh yeah. Well, let me read to you on Wikipedia. Hang on a sec. Now, before I do that, this is China down here. Let me go out a bit. This is China. Goes all the way up here. Now this is Russia, obviously. And Russia goes all the way down. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out to you is for one big reason. See that there, Vladivostok? That's Russia's major port, naval port. I don't know if you guys all know that. That's the one with all their nuclear capabilities, etc. But let me show you something. And you'll understand why this war is so crucial. See that bit there? That's Vladivostok up here. See it goes down here like that? See the line there? See how it's kind of doubled and changed? Well, that's Russia down here. And this is North Korea up here. This is China over here. So, in what bizarro reality check world does everyone think that the North Koreans and the South Koreans are going to be allowed to just party on together willy-nilly? Well, I have to tell you folks, the Chinese aren't going to let it happen. Because the Chinese are the ones who supply all the stuff to North Korea and possibly Russia. Because you have no physical barrier from North Korea to Russia or China if North Korea goes and is handed over to the Americans. As much as we would like to think that Americans would just say, South Korea is demilitarised, we're off. Yoo-hoo! We've done our job. Yeah, well, if you believe that, go outside and hug a tree singing Kumbaya, because that's where this is going. There will never be, while we're alive, a settlement on that border between... There may be a North Korea, South Korea settlement, but the Chinese and the Russians are going to have a big say in it. And I can guarantee you, that little blip of land you looked at, that bit there, the Russians, if that in any way becomes what's name, they will take it from there. They'll cut it off to there. Because this is China here. And that's, like I said, that's Vladivostok. So the Chinese, Russians in no way, this century, next century, whenever, they're not going to just walk up to anybody and say, well, hey, you can put a nuclear, you can build a harbour there and, right next to the Russian one, no problem at all. What bizarro worldo are you guys living in, by the way? Because you see, that's North Korea, that's Russia, and that's China, just here. So you've got a three-way sort of thing going on there. That's why that goes right to that point. Because all three own the same piece of land, in essence. So I hope that clears everything up for everybody. And as much as we all want North Korea to be one, I think you've got what we say in Australia, Buckley's chance. Because, folks, you know, maybe they'll say whoever in North Korea wants to live in South Korea can go and live in South Korea, and vice versa or whatever, but they're never going to give up those borders, folks. It's not going to happen. And we're stupid and dumb to think they ever are going to. You know, like this Japan Islands give Vladivostok, you know, a great degree of protection as it is. So if this is Seoul and this is North Korea and they've just got one big living happy family, well, what's to say that someone won't come along and build a big port just there? Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Don't forget the Chinese have just poured in thousands and thousands of troops along this border. Why? Well, they still haven't left, by the way. They're still there. But here, let me read this to you. This is interesting. Because I didn't even realise this was so bad. So let me read this to you. Hang on a sec. This is the Korean War. Hang on a sec. Okay, back again. Right. Casualties. According to the data from the US Department of Defense, the United States suffered 33,000 battle deaths along with 2,000 non-battle deaths, nearly 3,000, during the Korean War. Now, the Western sources estimate, now listen to this, suffered about 400,000 killed and 400 or nearly 500,000 wounded. That's just staggering, folks. The deaths on the United Nations side was nowhere near that. And there was 137,000 civilians killed in North Korea alone. South Korea reported 373,000 civilian and 137 military deaths. So they had nearly 500,000 people killed in that war. That's the South Koreans. Western sources estimate that the PVA suffered about 400,000 killed and 486,000 wounded. That's just crazy. While the KPA suffered 215,000 and 300,000 wounded. So China, and there is some Russian deaths in here, by the way, because recent scholarship puts the full battle death toll on all sides at just over 1.2 million. I'll read that again. The full battle death for the Korean War from both sides, this is including civilians, is 1.2 million. So, and there were some Russian deaths, by the way, because Russian fighter planes were fighting the American fighter planes. So after I just read that to you, do you think that the Russians and the Chinese are just going to go and completely forget the fact that nearly 500,000 soldiers died there? Chinese soldiers. You don't kill 500,000 soldiers of your own to protect your own border when they weren't going to cross the border anyway. And that regime has not become much more flexible than that over time either, by the way, folks. So it ain't going to happen. And if it does happen, there's going to be a war out of it. And now I'm not trying to be doom and gloom there, but the Chinese and the Russians are just not going to have it. It's as simple as that. You know, you can talk to Kim Jong-un as much as you want, but he's a puppet. He's run by China and he's run by Russia and the CIA. So what do you think is going to happen? Okay. Folks, I'll leave it there. I'm not going to talk much more. I just wanted to bring that out because a lot of, you know, we're humans. We only react on our life, which is 50 years or so, you know. My old man's 80. If I ask him about the Korean War, he knows everything about the Korean War. We don't, because we were born too late. So we're only really focused on we haven't really had a war. Vietnam, I was born before the Vietnam War really started in the 60s. So I have no real memory of it. So we don't really have a war that we all remember and we can go, oh yeah, that's what happened and that's why it happened. So our generation doesn't. Thank God. I'm not saying we need a war. I'm just saying that our collective memory here is not as good as older people who remember it like yesterday. One thing I wanted to do today, it's a bit sad really, and I'm hoping that everybody can have prayers for these people, because in Australia, you may have heard about it. If you're Australian, you obviously heard about it. But in Western Australia, the other day, a grandfather went crazy and shot and killed 8 members of his own family, which is tragic in its own. But, you know, the mere fact that it's happened, he's wiped out 2 generations in one go, or 3, sorry. You know, words just can't describe the horror of it, really. He was 72, I think, and no one knows exactly what happened just yet, but it happened a couple of days before Mother's Day, which was on Sunday or yesterday here in Australia. So I just ask if everybody can remember in their prayers for this is the guy there, he's lost his whole family. Like he's the only one left. So, you know, you got to wonder what God's plan is at times when you see stuff like that. But in the same token, you've got to have faith in God's plan as well, which is what we try to remember and which is what we try to live our lives by, you know, if you're any type of person who believes in God. But yeah, it sucks. You know, that sucks. Yeah, kids were as young as 5 and 8, I think, and 12. You know, well, they've never hurt anybody. But if you're a real true fundamentalist in belief and life and that, and you know, then in spirituality, perhaps those kids were here to do just that. That was their task this time around, you know what I mean? But it still doesn't make it feel any better in the old ticker, that's for sure. As a father of 5, I heard that. And just, I know this is a funny thing to say, but keep in mind the coppers who went there and all the people, the forensic teams and that. It must be heartbreaking to go there. You know, you're a family man yourself. You've got to go and you've got to go and look at that and just, you know, the two. This is in a small community, folks. By the way, of 2,000 people, just west of just south of Perth, a couple of hours south of Perth, in Western Australia. So, you know, sometimes life's a bitch, but it doesn't mean that we don't take time to try and make it better. You know, I just have this sick feeling in my gut because of this. And of course, you know, as usual, guns kill people. People kill people. Guns don't. Guns just go off in someone's hand. And of course, the usual fanfare is next. You know, Margaret River shooting sparked debate in gun laws. Yeah, well, how about you make a gun that doesn't shoot firearms? Shoot bullets, sorry. That might be a relatively new sort of, what's the name? How about that? How about we have wars with guns that have rubber bullets? And if you've ever been hit by a rubber bullet, you probably know what I mean. Or a paint gun. How about paint guns in wars? That'd be great. Anyone with pink? Yeah, pink and a purple side. Or pink and a yellow side. I don't know. Whatever you want. Sorry, blue and pink. Maybe, I don't know. Don't want to sound too gay or whatever, but there you go. Like I said, folk, it sucks. You know, and the whole country over here is in mourning because of it. Because of it, you know, somebody went crazy and decided to shoot their whole family and kill them all. You know, the gun didn't jump out of the cupboard and do it. That's for sure. The bloke did. Just something to remember. Anyway, here is the Bible Gateway passage for today. Proverbs 31:30. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Probably true. Probably true. And as usual, folks, we'll end with the Lord's Prayer. And as I said, keep these people in your prayers, especially the poor bloke who's got no family left anymore. You just can't believe it, can you? The Lord's Prayer. Let's pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver all of us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Well, folks, I'll leave it at that. God bless all, and God bless to the people the man in WA who's lost his family. Prep out.